Every year, it seems like the same thing. When we start a new school year, we get all these school supplies, we start telling ourselves this year is going to be different. I'm going to actually go to class, I'm going to actually take notes, I'm actually going to pay attention and participate, I'm going to do my homework on time, only for this to last a week, maybe two if you're lucky, and then we start falling off and getting back into our old habits where we don't end up doing our homework, we don't go to class, we aren't taking notes, and everything that we said at the beginning of the year, we're no longer doing. Maybe I'm in this boat by myself, but it seems like every single year that school starts up, I tell myself this and I always end up falling off. What I think it's a mixture of is piling too much stuff on at once, especially when I haven't built up these small habits, and it's also not very glamorous or fun stuff to do. The issue was I didn't really have any idea the impact that these small little habits were having on my life, even though they were just these little negative habits, but at the same time I was doing some positive habits that did have some good impact on my life. There are a lot of great opportunities to build up these small little habits in school that not only your teachers will realize, but your future self will also benefit from this, whether it's in your job or just in life. Starting now and doing something that you potentially don't even enjoy with school, if you're able to build up these habits doing something you don't enjoy, imagine these habits that you're going to be able to build up doing something that you actually enjoy doing. There's no better time to start developing positive behaviors in your life than right now. So some different habits that you can implement to be a success, not just in school, but in work and in your life, could be going to class consistently. This might seem like something small or something that doesn't really matter, but people will notice when you aren't showing up and they're just going to be like, oh, he's lazy, he doesn't really come to class, so why is he ever going to come? But additionally from other people, it's also going to have that motivation factor for you where you're going to a class that you don't feel like going to. It helps build up that motivational level to do stuff that you don't actually like doing. I've had those classes where the teachers don't really teach anything or you can barely understand them and you get no value out of the class, but going to that class and doing something that you don't really like to do, it really builds up that motivation level and that drive to actually go out and do something that you might not want to do in the future, whether it be with sales or something in that aspect where you don't want to do it, but you end up doing it because you built up that motivation to just do it. And your teachers are most likely going to take notice of you showing up to class. If you do have a reasonably sized class, unless you have like an oversized class, they might not be able to notice that. But if you do have a smaller class, your teachers are going to notice. And another thing they're going to notice is you showing up on time and not showing up late. I had this one teacher, she absolutely hated when people would show up late. And I honestly thought to myself, if I ever showed up late to her class, I'd probably just end up skipping because it would be less of a humiliation because she would publicly humiliate you whenever you walked in late. There was this one kid that walked into the class late every single day, and every single time she would just be like, hey, nice of you to join us. And then he would go, yeah, that's my bad. And then she would go, yeah, of course it is. It's not my fault you're late. So it's just something where the teachers are going to notice if you are showing up late or on time. And it's just really going to build that habit of always being punctual and always showing up time and having really good time management. I heard this one quote that it's better to be an hour early than 1 minute late, and I've always tried to live by that. So always trying to be punctual and on time, and if not early, that's the best way to go about being to class and a habit to build there. And when you're going to these classes, especially the ones that you don't feel like going to, not being on your phone, that's a really tough task and it helps build self-control. And this can be a really good habit to build up, especially in our day and age where we have our phones always by our side and it's just so easily accessible to just pick it up and start looking at it. Having that self-control to not go on your phone while you're in class is really good to build up, especially if it's an online class. And if you don't have your video on, or even if you do have your video on, you're just kind of looking at it down under the camera where they can't really see it, or even if your video is off and you're just on your phone the whole time. This is really going to start building up that habit, and especially with remote culture becoming more prevalent, you're not going to want to build that habit of always checking your phone, especially if you're working remote. It's going to be so easily accessible just right next to you and no one's watching over you. It's going to be extremely accessible, so having that self-control to not go on your phone while you're in class, or even if you're just on an online class, you have your video off, or even if it's on and you're just got your phone off to the side, that one can really help with your self-control, especially living in this instant gratification world where we're constantly checking our phones, always got to reply to everyone right away. It can just really help you with that self-control. And the last one that I would say is procrastination, not just with homework, but also with tests. Sometimes we get these projects or homework or tests and it's not due for a week or a month or 3 months. Why not just start it right now and start getting that ball rolling, just so when the last day does come, and that's typically when we do end up starting it. I'm not saying to finish your final project right once you first get it, or a homework or test. I'm just saying, why put it off to the very last second when you could just either start it right now and just get some done, and then when your future self has to do it, you got maybe some of it done, 3/4, 50%, you got more done now than you would have done before, and then you're not panicking on that last night trying to scramble and get it all done in one night. Procrastination is not the best habits or actions to have. It just kind of affects our future selves, and we just end up becoming more stressful when we do have that project or whatever it is, that deadline approaching, and then we got to all cram it in as quickly as possible. Whereas if we just take these small steps now to get a little bit done now, so we aren't stressed out as much when it is due, and maybe we are completely prepared, and it maybe gives us some extra time to look it over. And I know I've been guilty of this in the past, where I've procrastinated quite a bit doing stuff that I don't want to do. But recently I've been trying to implement just taking little baby action steps along the way, so when that deadline does come, I don't have to do it all at once. Now, with school starting back up, you might be thinking that this year is going to be different. You're going to go in, you're going to do all this stuff, maybe even more, but that might not necessarily be the best route to go, especially if this isn't what you usually end up doing. You'll be going in too fast, doing something that you're not used to doing, and you don't have those small habits built up, making this a harder process to keep going. For some people, going cold turkey where it's all or nothing may be the best route, and that's usually what I like to do with my habits, and I'm trying to implement new stuff. But with school, that typically didn't work out for me, as I didn't have these small habits built up. And if you don't have these small habits built up, I would say just take small gradual steps to implement these and any other habits that you want to implement. Say it's with your phone, maybe just cut down 10%. Maybe with procrastination, maybe it's just getting your title or getting the first question, or maybe just one paragraph done. It doesn't have to be all of it. It just has to be a start, and just start small and build up off of that. You don't really need to finish your final project that's due in 3 or 4 months right when you first get it. But if you do take those small steps, your future self is going to thank you for getting ahead and being prepared when that time does come. And your future self will also thank you for building these positive habits while you can instead of negative habits, and they'll pay off in the long run. And as always, thanks for watching, and let's level up.